Hello everyone, and welcome back to Learn English with My Life. Today I want to share a very personal story with you. It's the story of why I started learning English. When people see someone speaking English comfortably, they often assume that the journey was easy or natural. But for many of us, the journey begins with confusion, struggle, curiosity, and a lot of small efforts that slowly grow into something meaningful. My story with English did not begin with a big decision or a clear plan. In fact, at the beginning, English felt like a distant and somewhat mysterious language to me. It was something I saw in books, movies, and sometimes on the internet, but it did not yet feel like something that belonged to my daily life. In school, English was just another subject. Like many students, I studied it because it was part of the curriculum. I memorized vocabulary, learned grammar rules, and completed exercises. But at that time, I did not fully understand why learning English could be important. It felt like something I had to study for exams, rather than something that could truly change my life. During those early years, I was not particularly confident with the language. Sometimes the pronunciation felt strange. Sometimes the grammar rules felt complicated. And sometimes I wondered whether I would ever feel comfortable using it naturally. But slowly, something interesting began to happen. I started noticing that English was everywhere. It appeared in technology, in music, in movies, in books, and especially on the internet. Many of the videos and articles that interested me were in English. Many of the people sharing knowledge online were speaking English. At first, this realization was a little frustrating. I would find something interesting, but understanding it completely was difficult. Sometimes I would watch a video and only understand half of what was being said. Sometimes I would read an article and stop frequently to look up words. But instead of giving up, curiosity slowly started growing inside me. I began wondering what it would feel like to understand everything without difficulty. What if I could watch videos without subtitles? What if I could read books without constantly checking a dictionary? What if I could communicate with people from different parts of the world? These questions stayed in my mind for a long time. One of the moments that pushed me further happened when I realized how much knowledge was available in English. It felt like opening a door to a huge library that contained ideas from people across the world. There were lectures, interviews, documentaries, educational channels, and discussions on topics ranging from science and technology to psychology and personal development. But many of these resources were not easily available in other languages. That was when I began understanding that learning English was not just about learning a language. It was about accessing a world of ideas and information. Another moment that influenced me was when I observed how English connected people from different cultures. I saw people from completely different countries communicating with each other using English as a common language. They shared experiences, exchanged ideas, and built friendships, despite coming from very different backgrounds. That idea fascinated me. It made me realize that language is more than just words and grammar. Language is a bridge between people. The more I thought about it, the more I felt motivated to improve my English. However, motivation alone does not automatically make things easy. The journey of learning English had many challenges. At the beginning, speaking felt uncomfortable. Sometimes I knew what I wanted to say, but I could not find the right words quickly enough. Sometimes I worried about making grammatical mistakes. Sometimes my pronunciation did not sound the way I wanted. There were moments when I felt frustrated with my progress. But something important helped me continue. I started changing the way I looked at the learning process. Instead of expecting immediate perfection, I began focusing on gradual improvement. I realized that learning a language is very similar to learning any other skill. It requires patience, practice, and time. I also began using English in small ways every day. Sometimes I listened to English conversations or interviews. Sometimes I read short articles. Sometimes I tried thinking in English or writing a few sentences. These small activities may not have seemed impressive, but they slowly built familiarity with the language. One of the most interesting discoveries I made was that learning English could actually be enjoyable. When I started watching videos about topics I truly liked, the learning process became much more engaging. Instead of studying only grammar rules, I was learning through real conversations and ideas. Gradually, my understanding improved. Words that once seemed unfamiliar started becoming recognizable. Sentences that once felt complicated began to make more sense. Little by little, the language started feeling less foreign. Another important step in my journey was gaining the courage to speak. Speaking is often one of the most challenging parts of learning a language. When we speak, we cannot pause for too long or check a dictionary every few seconds. We must respond in real time. At first, speaking in English felt slow and uncertain. I had to think carefully about my words. But every conversation helped me improve. Each time I spoke, I became a little more comfortable. Each mistake became an opportunity to learn. Over time, those conversations became smoother and more natural. One of the most rewarding moments in learning English is when you realize that you are no longer translating every thought from your native language. Instead, ideas begin forming directly in English. That shift does not happen overnight, but when it begins, it feels like an important milestone. Another reason I continued learning English was the opportunities it created. English opened doors to international knowledge, global communication, and a wider perspective on the world. It allowed me to learn from people I would never have been able to interact with otherwise. Through English, I could listen to experts, explore different cultures, and understand viewpoints from many parts of the world. This made learning English feel meaningful rather than just academic. Of course, the journey still had moments of doubt. Sometimes I wondered whether I was progressing fast enough. Sometimes I felt that there was still so much to learn. But whenever those thoughts appeared, I reminded myself of how far I had already come. The words that once seemed impossible to understand were now part of my everyday vocabulary. The language that once felt intimidating had gradually become familiar. Looking back, I realized that the decision to continue learning English was one of the most valuable choices I made. It did not just improve my language skills. It expanded my world. It allowed me to access knowledge, communicate with people from different cultures, and express ideas in new ways. Perhaps the most important lesson from this journey is that learning a language is not only about grammar or vocabulary. It is about curiosity. It is about the desire to connect with the world beyond your immediate environment. And it is about persistence. Progress may sometimes feel slow, but every small effort adds up. If you are currently learning English, you may sometimes feel the same challenges that I experienced. You may feel uncertain when speaking. You may feel confused by grammar rules. You may feel impatient about progress. But remember that every learner goes through these stages. The important thing is not perfection. The important thing is consistency. Even a few minutes of practice each day can create meaningful improvement over time. When I think about the moment I truly began taking English seriously, I realized that it started with curiosity and slowly grew into a passion. That curiosity led me to explore, practice, and continue learning even when the process was not always easy. And today, I am grateful for that journey. Because learning English did not just teach me a language. It helped me connect with a much bigger world. Thank you for listening to my story.